Hello there. My name is Juni, Felix. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I'm really honored that you're here. Now, today, I want to invite you to join me in what I call a time traveling journey into the art of becoming the type of person who is designing an extraordinary, ordinary life of real love. Take a journey with me back into the ancient past, and we'll learn a little bit about what love meant before the world started defining it romantically, through the Hollywood rom-coms, the princess movies, Valentine's Day cards, all of that. Before we had wedding rings and legal contracts. Yeah, that's so romantic, right? Real love was something sacred, enduring, and deeply, I'm talking deeply practical. And it was a relationship created by often and sometimes hard work. I mean, loyalty and commitment, and the creation of a safe and intimate relationship and community. It was never about chemistry or sparks or magic. It was about this kind of ancient word, covenant, not about how someone made you feel. It was all about the chance to live out your love in the tiniest ways, accumulating into a life of abiding joy because you know you're not alone. You're on the same team together. And that word accumulating is very important in matters of love. I like to think of it as, collecting, or as a technologist like I am, the importance of one keystroke in a line of code. One keystroke at a time makes up the billions of lines of code in the technology that we're using right now. And love is like that. It's all those tiny but mighty acts of love and kindness and care that accumulates into this legacy, a beautiful lifetime legacy of love. So let's do this. Let's climb into the time machine and spend some time on some ancient perspectives of love. Now, here in the United States, we often think of love as, two people choosing each other, or people choosing each other for romance and companionship, and often legal partnership. But this is actually a pretty recent invention. If you do a little bit of the research on this, I've done it for years, but this is a modern day invention. The truth is, for most of human history, love wasn't about romance, it was about survival and community and sacred duty and alliances. Yeah, real love existed long before the marriage, our understanding of it, ever did. In ancient times, love wasn't seen as a fleeting emotion or some kind of a spark. It was understood as, get this, a virtue, a personal character trait that demonstrated higher values. Love was considered a force that held creation together, something divine and otherworldly, eternal, steadfast and steady, but most importantly, it was selfless. Now, in the ancient Hebrew language, there's a word ahavah, and it comes from the root meaning to give. And that's the ancient understanding of love. It's all about what you give, not what you get. To love, then, it wasn't to feel affection, but to give of yourself, your time, your resources, your loyalty, your life, even. Another ancient word designed to help people understand real love is Hesed, also another ancient Hebrew word. But this is a word that was first brought to my attention by one of my colleagues. I'm looking around because he gave me this book. One of my colleagues, Dr. Gary Chapman, maybe you've heard of him. He's the author of the Five Love Languages. And he gave me a book that has literally changed the whole way that I see and understand love. But Dr. Gary Chapman, the Five Love Languages, he's changed the conversation across the world ever since that book, The Five Love Languages, was just published in the 90s. And Dr. Chapman, he was a guest on my morning radio show back when I was hosting mornings. We had a special in studio live event, a live studio audience, and we called it Breakfast with Gary. And it was great. I mean, we had bacon and everything. And after the show, during the show, we had a live Q&A, but afterwards in the green room, Dr. Chapman and I spent some time together, a good little bit of time together. And I asked him a question that in all of my many years of broadcasting, I've never heard covered very well. And the question was, what love language do you use if your spouse or your partner has had so much trauma or illness that it's very hard to tell on a moment by moment, what they need? And that's when he told me about this ancient word, the Hebrew word hesed, Hesed. It means a steadfast, loyal, consistent, sacrificial, and unwavering kind of love. This is the kind of devotion that endures through challenges of any and every kind, no matter how long those challenges linger. And here's the book that he gave me in that conversation. He said, I think you should read this book. And it's Keeping Love Alive as Memories Fade, the Five Love Languages and the Alzheimer's Journey. But they also cover ways to show that kind of love, that Hesed love, if there's any sort of medical condition, whether it's a physical infirmity, Alzheimer's, dementia, prefrontal damage, mental illness, you can show that kind of abiding love in these relationships. So, Dr. Chapman, if you're watching this, thank you again for this. Next to, I'm a Christian, next to the Bible, this has been one of the most helpful books in my journey. And one of the most helpful books I think anyone can read in matters of love. So, when the ancient scriptures speak of love, they're not describing those butterflies in the stomach there. They're describing a covenant practice, Hesed, Ahavah, the chance to give without demand or expectation of return. And so if you are, I just want to take a moment, if you are a care partner in one of those situations where it's just very difficult on a day-to-day basis, I put the link to this resource in the comments for this video below. But we're going to move on now to understanding more about, this concept, because it's helpful for anyone, not just if you're in a care partner situation, which is what Dr. Chapman taught me. When you're caring for someone in a situation where that love is hard every day and you don't know which language to use. But if you think about how this concept of giving without expectation of return, many have also found it helpful to take a look at the ancient Greek understanding of love. Now, the Greeks, they had it was nuanced and multifaceted understanding of love. And there wasn't just one word for it, there were several. And first, there was eros, and that's that passionate, sexually romantic love, the emotional attraction, those sparks that everybody loves to talk about and experience. And then next was philia. Now, this is the friendship kind of love. It's the bond between close companions. It can even be experienced on similar levels, lower levels between associates and coworkers. And then there's storge. Now, this is the quiet, loyal love of family and familiarity. And you might also feel this one with some of your very best friends. It's a little bit deeper than philia. And finally, agape. And this is the self-giving, sacrificial love that expects nothing in return, that care partner kind of love that Dr. Chapman and I talked about. Now, when the earliest followers of Jesus spoke about love or heard him talking about it, this is how they understood it. This is the kind of love that serves without reward, forgives without reason, and endures without condition. And then when you think about this, it's a kind of, another word is agape. It's the kind of love that says, even if you cannot return my love, I will still choose your good. So there's a few of the ancient terms that are good to consider when designing this extraordinary, ordinary life of love. And no act of goodness or kindness and wellness is too tiny. And this is so different from that surface level love. But this never means, and I want to make sure to make this clear, it never means excusing abuse. A loving, good thing to do if your relationship has become toxic is to put immediate space between you and that abuse, because boundaries are always good and wise. So that's just good, a pause to take. I'm also an expert in trauma recovery, healing from abusive relationships. And my book, You Are Worth the Work, here is where I cover some of that. But for right now, we're going to go back into thinking about like real love and this ancient agape kind of love. It was never sentimental or weak. And it was pretty radical, even back in the day. It didn't depend on social status or bloodlines or any personal benefit. This love reflects the very nature of God. I mean, it's steadfast, it's eternal, it's covenantal. And it's born from the tiny but mighty choices that you and I can make every single day. And that's what brings it home to a level that we can understand. When we come back from the past into the present, the practical nature of this is that it's the tiniest acts of loving kindness and care that accumulate into this legacy of love. And this is a good time to think about the fact that kindness really is a supernatural superpower, because no act of loving care is too tiny. Even the smiling at a stranger and the simple acts of kindness that we can perform in everyday life and everyday situations. It's a lot like the tiny, simple elements that are at the foundation of the science of behavior design, which is founded by my mentor, Dr. BJ Fogg at the Stanford Behavior Design Lab. And these tiny, consistent, accumulating behaviors, I call the science of behavior design the science of love, because it's all about those tiny but mighty things that only you can do, the ways that you can show love and that continually overflows into all of your relationships, starting with your relationship with yourself. What tiny ways, acts of loving kindness and nurturing can you do for yourself today? Whether it's getting enough exercise, one step is better than no step, drink enough water, staying hydrated. Those are ways that you can practice loving and nurturing yourself. And then you can begin to overflow that kind of love into all of your other relationships. Now, before love and romance and marriage, before that love and romance thing, it was about becoming the type of person that could sustain, that's the word, peace and compassion, community. It was never about, this is important. It's never about perfection or getting it right every time, because you and I were human and perfection is impossible for us. That's not what kind of creatures we are. But it was never about perfection. Real love is always about that consistency and that faithfulness, that steadfastness, and having a heart motive toward good for yourself and for everyone involved, the other person involved, getting back up, when you make those mistakes and trying again with humility and always the other's best interest in mind. So these are some of the first concepts to think about if you're interested in becoming the type of person who wants to design an extraordinary ordinary life of love. It's really the only true success a human being can ever hope to accomplish. It's the only thing that's sustainable, this lifestyle of love. Think about, after you finish this video, I hope that you'll take some time to journal, do some deep breathing, and think about ways that you can start being consistent, steadfast in love, self nurturing, and self care to yourself, because it's never selfish. And then you'll have what you need to start overflowing that kind of love, those tiny but mighty, simple acts of love that are never actually tiny. They're the best things in the world. And every choice you make to live out your love makes this world a better place. So that's part one in our time travel into ancient perspectives. We're coming back to the present time now to start thinking about some of those ways you can put this kind of love into action. And I do hope that you'll share in the comments, what are some of your favorite things that you've learned about love along the way so we can learn and grow together? Again, thank you so much for spending some time on my channel today. And the next edition of this Love Note series is going to be all about more of those ancient perspectives that can help us to overflow, understand, and live out real love in this world, because it's the only true success a human being can really, really celebrate. I mean, it's the greatest thing you and I can do is overflow and live out that love. So I'll see you in episode 2 next week. In the meantime, be kind to yourself and others. And don't forget to celebrate and shine, because you are so, so loved.